If you are ready and resolved to make some meaningful changes in your life and you get started with all this energy, but then you find out that you can never really make any progress, or you find that you just feel like you're spinning your wheels, I have good news for you. It's probably not you. It's probably because you're using the wrong tool. And that's not your fault because it's the same tool that every person was handed. We seem to be issued it as children from the jump. So you're ready to make the change. You're going to start going to the gym. You're going to eat right. You're going to lift the heavy weights. You're going to cut out playing the video games. You're going to do all the things that you meant to do. You're going to move your life forward with ferocity. But then just as you get going, something happens and you end up stumbling and you don't quite manage to make all the good things happen that you're trying to bring about in your life. You're not alone. This is a very common experience and one that is totally avoidable. It's avoidable and it's not your fault because you're probably just using the same tool that everybody starts to use when they determine to make some kind of change or determine to establish or cut out some kind of habit. It's the same tool that we're issued as children, and then nobody teaches us to use a different tool to change our habits and to change our behaviors. And that tool is willpower. So, willpower by itself is not actually very good at helping us move towards our goals. I'm Jonathan Ball. I'm a habit and behavior coach certified in effective liminal psychology, and I help my clients with the same strategies that I learned through a lot of pain and applying them to my own life. But I help my clients rewire their negative behaviors and patterns so that they can live the kind of life that they want to. I use these same techniques to quit drinking. I use the same techniques to drop almost 50 pounds. And I'm using the same techniques right now to get in the best shape of my life, which was not always the case. Growing up, I was always a bigger kid. I remember in second grade, my second grade teacher, Miss Carlisle, had me come up to the board to spell the word pizza. And when I didn't spell it correctly, she poked me in my fat little tummy and said, "You can't spell pizza," much to the laughter of everyone and my own humiliation. So that was me growing up. I stayed with the big kid thing, and this big kid turned into a big adult. And that informed like my strange relationship with health and my weight and working out. I felt a lot of anxiety and shame around that, and so I'd resolve like I'm gonna make a big change. I'm gonna start going to the gym. I'm gonna start eating better. I'm gonna get my life together. I'm not gonna be the person that I was, and I would get out there and I would white knuckle the experience with willpower, and I'd struggle, and it'd go okay for a couple of days, and then inevitably I would fail. And when I failed, I would use that as evidence that I was a failure. And then I'd beat myself up and I'd be in this really low state and I wouldn't end up continuing with the good things that I was trying to bring about in my life. And that cycle would repeat. I'd go from shrugging off problems and just thinking this is the way life is to becoming so miserable that I felt like I needed to make a change. And then I would resolve to make a change, but it wouldn't stick. And then I'd use that as evidence that this is just how life is. And it's just that way until I was miserable enough to, and you see how the cycle repeats. I desperately wanted things to be different, but I was relying on willpower and discipline to change. And when those inevitably gave out, I'd fall off. And it took finding tools outside of willpower or its beefy cousin discipline to really break that cycle and to open up the possibility for some actual movement in my life. Research has shown that willpower is a finite resource, but think about it beyond just like what the people in the lab coats say or what they've been able to show with kids and marshmallows. Think about how willpower has shown up in your own journey to change your habits. Have you ever found that after a long day at the office, it's a lot harder to avoid cracking open a beer or eating a pint of ice cream than it was at the beginning of the day when you made your healthy breakfast or skipped one entirely to hit your fitness goals? That's because throughout the day, willpower has been chipped away. It's a finite resource. And so when you get to the end of the day, you're less able to navigate or bring about whatever change that you're looking for. Maybe you've done the thing where you wake up one morning and declare, that's it. I'm eating totally different. I'm working out. I'm starting to journal. I'm going to take a breath work. I'm going to go find a yogi. And then I'm going to start my small business. Just me. But then you can't move anything forward because all you're using is willpower and you're trying to change too many things at once. And when one thing doesn't go the way it's supposed to, you fall off and you use that falling off as evidence that you're no good. And then you put yourself really low and you can't make it move forward. It happens. And it happens because willpower is a finite resource. So we need to shift to fueling our personal transformation, to fueling our energy to go after our goals. We need to shift it to something that's not finite, like willpower. We need to find something that is infinite, an infinite source of energy for moving our goals forward. What's even worse is what happens after willpower runs out. Have you ever failed to do something you said you were going to do and then use that to beat yourself up and put yourself down? And when you do that while you're kicking yourself while you're down, you're not actually able to bounce back from that. You're lower and less able to get up and rise towards your goals. We tend to get and establish these narratives in our head that we're no good. So we've tried to do this thing, we failed at that. I must be a failure. What's wrong with me? Am I broken? I don't have any willpower. I can't do this. I can't do that. And these words become the beliefs that really kind of underpin our operating system. And so if that's the case, then it's kind of a self-fulfilling prophecy, right? Like we are making ourselves weaker and reinforcing our weakness with our stories about how weak we are. We've got to shift that narrative. And habit change is weird. I mean, do you ever remember being explicitly taught like this is how you change a habit or this is how you establish a behavior? Maybe you've heard that if you can take some kind of certain action some magical number of times, or string together 30 days of this, or do this 100 times, or 100 days in a row, then you'll have a habit and then it'll be easy. Is that all there is to changing a habit? You just have to do it some magical number of times and then poof, you have a new habit that's going to help you move forward in your life. And that becomes the prevailing advice, right? Like if I do certain thing, if I take certain action, then I win. It becomes very focused on the action. And my question to you is the action actually the point of establishing a habit? Is the point of, for instance, quitting alcohol? Is the point of quitting alcohol to never imbibe ethanol into your body ever again? I would say probably not. Probably what you want if you're quitting alcohol is all of the other things that come with not imbibing ethanol into your system. So the same goes for anything, right? Is the point of going to the gym to be able to lift heavier weights? Or is it because of the outcome of being able to lift the heavier weights? We get into trouble when we start to change our habits, when we focus too much on the action and we lose sight of the outcome that the action is supposed to give us. Instead, when you're changing your habits, focus on the outcome. And if the outcome hasn't been achieved yet, you're not done. That's the great thing. When we focus on the action and we do or don't take whatever given action is going to lead us towards our goals, then we win or lose based on one action. Whereas if we shift our mindset when it comes to habits to focus on the outcome, we know that however whatever path we've taken to get to whatever desired outcome, we haven't won the game until we've achieved the outcome. That gives us so much more energy to keep pushing and to keep our energy high for that transformation. So most people are not taught any other tools besides willpower to change their habits or establish some kind of new behavior or whatever. But you're about to learn a radical research-based way to to fuel that habit change. That's not willpower. It's something that is infinite, whereas willpower is finite. So we need better tools. We need something that doesn't run out. So instead of using willpower to fuel whatever goals you have, you're going to shift and you're going to learn how to go after your goals with curiosity and compassion. Curiosity and compassion might sound scary. It might sound a little bit of woo woo to be able to use that as fuel for your personal transformation, but I promise you it works. And a growing body of research backs me up. Curiosity about yourself and curiosity about the habits that you engage in actually creates a little bit of room where you can start to examine those things. It gives you a chance to find out like what's really going on the inside. So if you're genuinely holding yourself in a state of curiosity, then there's no room for self-judgment. There's no room for you to come in and beat yourself down and put yourself really low. It allows it allows you to learn about yourself. And the other half of this approach is showing compassion. If you learn to witness yourself and see your experiences and to acknowledge your own suffering and to see that and want to alleviate that, that can be actually very motivating for you to get to the root of whatever's causing the negative experience that you're trying to transform with your goals and with your habits. So let's use a really practical example. How does this actually work? For instance, let's say that I'm somebody who's not happy and I have been drinking too much and I resolve to quit. True story. So let's say I want to quit drinking and I'm using willpower only rules. I'm white knuckling things. I'm really trying to stay away from anything alcohol related. I'm saying no to hanging out with my friends because they like to drink. I'm avoiding going to bars. I haven't been to a ball game in 100 years. I'm just like really kind of really holding on to the action of not drinking. What happens if I slip up? What happens if I do have a drink? Well, then by willpower only rules, I've taken the action that's going to result in me losing. I've lost. I'm a loser. Shifting that, if I approach that game or that scenario and I do it with curiosity and compassion, then if I do take a drink and I'm focused on the outcome and not the action, I'm focused on the outcome of being sober, not drinking, then I'll know that, oh, I haven't really achieved the outcome yet. And so what I'm going to do instead is approach myself with curiosity and compassion and ask, what were the scenarios, what were the circumstances around me choosing to have a drink? Was I stressed out? Was I around certain people? Did I have some negative self-talk that day? Like, what was going on? And if I can find out what was going on that allowed me to take the action I didn't want to take with curiosity and compassion, I can avoid taking that in the future. If I was just doing willpower instead, then I would feel like a loser. But if I'm using curiosity and compassion, then I can be like, this was a learning moment. And that's what we want to do. We want to be kind to ourselves as we're engaging in getting after our goals. And we want to be able to learn from what we're doing. Now, I've been talking a lot of trash about willpower, but the thing is, willpower, it can actually be helpful. It plays its role. You don't have to throw the willpower baby out with the bathwater. Willpower can help you early on in small doses, but I just caution you, don't use it as the main source of energy for fueling your transformation and fueling your growth. If you only use that, you're running the risk of having a really bad time. Whereas instead, if you can shift your kind of energizing force to curiosity and compassion for your habit change, you're much more likely to be successful because you won't stop until you've achieved the outcome that you're looking for. I'd love for you to follow this channel. And if this episode made you think of anyone, I'd love for you to share it because this is great information that I wish that I'd had earlier on in my journey. And I'm happy to be sharing it here with you.